Well, good afternoon, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025, and it's about a little bit before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're out in the van/recording studio, and by golly, it's raining. I got my little friend Squatchy over here, and he's kind of helping me on this one, and I had something happen pretty strange last night, and I talked about it on my community page this morning, and I figured I'd tell you about it. But I think well, first of all, let me get started, and then then we're going to go out there and I'm going to show you exactly where it happened at. But my wife, her back was bothering her, so she decided last night, about 7:30, and it still wasn't dark yet, she decided she was going to go upstairs to the bedroom and lay down on the bed to rest her back. And when she walked through the kitchen, she glanced out the window, and she came back and said, "Hey, there's a big elk in the neighbor's yard." And so I got up and grabbed one of my little handles, one of these things, and put the camera in it, and I figured I'd go out there and see if I could get a picture of him, or maybe even a video, and I thought that'd be pretty cool. So I stepped out my back door, and let's go over there and I'll take it from there. I stepped out of my back door from my laundry room, and I looked right over there, and he was right over there by that tree. On the other side of this is my neighbor's porch, and he was back over on the other side there. Well, he looked up at me, and I started talking to him, and he started trotting over toward me. And so I snapped a picture right quick like while he was walking, and I'll insert both the original picture and the blown up crop version that I used on my community page post, and I'll put them right here. Then I switched the camera over to video, and I started recording him, and he walked right up to the fence right here and was looking at me. Then he walked up, I stepped out here further, and I'm talking to him in a calm voice, and he's right here, right on the other side of the fence, and he's facing that way. And he just stood there and almost posed for me. And at that point, not only the behavior was strange, but I got to looking at him, and he was just too perfect. All right, elk live outside all the time, and most of them are filthy dirty, and they've got dirt caked on them, and they have leaves and pine needles and stuff stuck to them. This guy was absolutely perfect. His color was a little darker than usual. We got a thunderstorm, you might get some thunder in the background. His color was a little darker than usual, and he didn't have a blemish or a scratch on him. I even looked down at his hoofs, because he was standing there basically, he was facing this way, so I had his whole right side that I could look at. And I looked at, his front legs, his back legs, his hoofs. He was immaculately clean. He was absolutely perfect. There's also no war wounds or any kind like that you'd think that elk that had that big a rack would have got in a scrap at some time or another with other elk. But this guy looked like he just came from the groomer. He was perfect. Well, then he turned around and he walked down to about here, hopped over the fence to my side of the fence, stopped there and looked at me for a second, and then just calmly sauntered down this way into my bottom yard. Well, when he did that, I shut the camera off. I went back inside and watched him through the window on the Arcadia door, and I turned the camera back on, and I shot another video talking to the camera while he walked very calmly across my yard down to the bottom fence and hopped across the fence and then wandered down toward the apartments. Now, I'm going to insert another couple photos right here that I took quite some time ago of a couple other elk to show you where they hop across the fence and how they do it. And after you see those, then we'll be back out in the van and talk some more. Well, the rain quit long enough for me to go back there and shoot that. But now we're back in the van here, kind of to do a recap. Now, as I mentioned out there, I was immediately suspicious of this guy. And there's some reasons why. And I made myself some notes here, and let me tell you why I got suspicious. Number one, he was all by himself. And elk are very, very social animals, and they like to spend time together. And it's been my experience that most of the time when there's one around, there's more than one around. Sometimes 2 and 3, and sometimes more than that. And as you saw in that last picture, there was 2 of them. Actually, there was 3 of them in that group, and there's 2 of them in the pictures, where the one's hopping over the bottom fence, which is exactly the same place and the same way that the one did it last night. So that was number one. The second thing is, he looked pretty young, and he had a pretty good sized rack on him, a rack of antlers, and that seemed to be too big. I would expect elk with a rack that big would be bigger and look older. But this guy looked awful young, and he had a pretty good sized rack of antlers. And as you could see, they were still in velvet, which is the ones around here, their racks are still in velvet this time of year. So that was number 2. Number 3 was the behavior. When I first started talking to him, he started walking over toward me, and it kind of reminded me of the neighbor's dog. When the neighbor's dog's out there and I go talk to him, he comes trotting right over to the fence to say hi. And that's kind of what that elk did. He come walking right over there, absolutely no fear, no apprehension, and walked right up to the fence. And as you can see, that fence is not very far away. He never showed any sense of alarm. He didn't show any sense of aggression either. But he walked right up there, and it's almost like he stood on the other side of the fence and was posing for me. Look at me, I'm pretty. And when I talked to him, he'd look at me like he almost looked like he understood what I was saying. The next thing I mentioned already was his appearance. Now, his hair was a little darker than what the other elk around here seemed to be, but his hair was absolutely perfect. There's not a hair out of place, so to speak. He was clean, didn't show any evidence that he'd ever been laying on the ground, and they lay on the ground and sleep every night. And his hoofs weren't even dirty. His hoofs almost were kind of shiny, actually. And it almost reminded me of maybe like a horse that was staying inside the barn all the time and was being combed all the time. I mean, this guy was absolutely perfect. Even my wife was actually, when all this was going on, she was standing inside the house watching out the window. And she even remarked on how perfect he looked. I mean, everything just, there was no battle scars, no places where he'd ever run into anything. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how perfect he looked. And that caught my attention right away, which is why I asked him. When I asked him, he didn't react any big reaction, but it almost like there was a little bit of a reaction there. Now comes this funny part. After I shut off the camera, went inside, like I said, and shot another short video as he calmly walked across the yard and hopped over the fence. And I thought that was really cool, and I thought that would be an absolutely excellent video to put up and show to you folks. So I sat down in my chair, and I was going to preview it. Well, I opened up my phone and went to preview the videos, and they weren't there. They literally were not there. Now, I shoot a lot of videos, and I know how to run a phone. So I wasn't excited. I didn't have buck fever or anything. And I was absolutely sure that I had turned the camera on, that I got that video, and turned it back off again. And now it's starting to rain harder, so you probably hear that on the van in the background. But I was absolutely sure that I got that. But those videos, neither one of those videos were there. Absolutely gone. Well, I had no answer for that. Initially, I was mad at myself because I thought I did something dumb, and I was just stewing over it for a while. And then I got to thinking about it, and I thought, that kind of fits in the pattern. So now I got one more little exclamation point to put on the story. Well, the rain quit all of a sudden. And that is that later on that evening, I shut down the computer, and the TV was still on, but I wasn't watching TV. I actually had it on Pandora, and I was listening to music. And I was getting ready to shut the TV off, but there was a song on that I liked, and I was just kind of sitting there and waiting for that song to end and then I was going to shut the TV off. And I got a tingle. So I responded back. There's thunder. I responded back and made a connection. Whoever it was kind of a faint connection, and they didn't necessarily tell me their name. But I actually asked. I said, earlier I had something happen with an elk. Was that elk one of your people? And I got kind of a affirmative, kind of a yes. Now, it wasn't a absolute yes, it was one of us. It was kind of like, yeah, it was one of us. Kind of like that. So, am I pretty sure that that wasn't really an elk? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't really an elk. Now, the whole idea of shapeshifting and stuff is pretty controversial. A lot of people don't believe in it. But I've had enough between what I've seen myself and what some of the trusted folks that I deal with on a daily basis, what they've experienced. I'm pretty convinced that they can shapeshift into just about anything they want to. And so I think that guy last night, I don't think he was an elk. I think he was one of our local Sasquatches, shapeshifted into an elk, wandering around hiding in plain sight. But he was just enough off from what a normal elk would be that I was able to challenge him on it. And at the very end, it was like, yeah, we did that. So that's my little story. I'll see if I can get this put back together and try to get it loaded. But the crazy train just keeps running. You never know what the next day is going to bring you. And any one of those individual things would have been pretty easy to ignore. Oh, it's raining hard again now. But when you add it all together, it's just a little bit, it's not all synchronicities. There's just a little too much there, and I picked up on it. So as I always tell you, take care of each other, love each other. We're getting a good rain this afternoon, which will make sure that we don't burn up in a forest fire this summer. And we'll take every bit of that we can get. I'm just going to sit here in the van for a while and enjoy it. So be thankful. I'm thankful for the rain. I'm thankful for everything I have, and you should be too. And until we see you again, I'll just tell you, peace out.